At 82, you'd think I'd have it all figured out. After all, I've lived through wars, raised a family, buried friends, and watched the world change faster than I ever imagined it could. And yet, despite all I've learned, there's one decision I deeply regret. One I wish someone had warned me about before it was too late. I moved into a nursing home. At the time, it felt like the right decision. My family encouraged it. They told me I'd be comfortable, safe, and well taken care of. And I believed them. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? They loved me. They wanted what was best. But what no one told me was that life in a nursing home isn't just about care or convenience. It's about what you lose. And once you go in, getting out is not as simple as you think. If you're thinking about this option for yourself, a parent, or someone you love, please hear me out. Before you make a life-changing decision, I want to share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I signed that dotted line. These are not just complaints, they are truths, and some of them might surprise you. So stay with me until the end. It could spare you or someone you love a lifetime of silent regrets. The biggest shock wasn't the small room. It wasn't the fixed meal times, the plastic trays, or the constant background hum of televisions I didn't choose. It wasn't even the unfamiliar faces or the fluorescent lights that never quite felt like home. It was this: I had lost control of my own life. Before the nursing home, my days were mine. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, how long to sit on the porch with my morning coffee. I could water my plants, take a slow stroll through the park, or whip up an old recipe just for the smell of it. But here, my time belonged to someone else. Breakfast is at 7:30 a.m. sharp, even if I'm not hungry. Lights out by 9, even if I'm not sleepy. Want to go outside? You'll need permission and a staff member to escort you, but they're usually busy. Even small decisions, what to wear, when to shower, what to read, began to feel like privileges instead of rights. I remember one morning waking up and reaching for the worn paperback I always kept beside my bed. But it wasn't there. Nothing was. No bookshelf, no familiar chair. Just walls painted a cheerful color I didn't choose, and a clock ticking too loud in the silence. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't my home. It was a place I lived, but not where I belonged. And once you give up your independence, you don't just lose routines, you start losing yourself. You adapt because you have to. You stop arguing when they bring you a meal you don't like. You stop asking to go outside when no one has time to take you. You stop making choices because there are so few left to make. So, if you're considering a nursing home, I ask you this. Are you truly ready to give up the small freedoms that made your life yours? Because those little freedoms, you'll miss them more than you can imagine. The second thing no one warned me about was how quiet it would get. When I first arrived, my daughter promised to visit every week, and she did for a while. My grandkids came on Sundays, all laughter and energy. They told me about school, about their friends, and for a moment I felt like I still had a place in their world. But time passed. Life got busy, and the visits slowly faded. First came the calls instead of visits. Then came the, "We'll come next week, I promise." Then came the silence. I spent one Christmas Eve sitting alone by the common room tree, watching the blinking lights, pretending I didn't mind. The staff did their best. They brought cookies, played carols, but it wasn't the same. I watched other residents stare at the front door, waiting for someone, anyone to walk through. Most of them waited in vain. It's not that my family stopped loving me. It's just that when you're not around, it's easy to forget you exist. They assume you're fine, that you're adjusting, that you don't need as much anymore. But that's the thing. The longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is to be forgotten. Out of sight, out of mind. I remember sitting with my phone in my hand one evening, debating whether to call my son. But I didn't want to sound needy. I didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want to remind him that I was here waiting for something that might never come. So I put the phone down. And that's when I realized this was my life now. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because it doesn't come all at once. It comes in silence. Missed visits, forgotten birthdays, long afternoons staring out the window at a world that no longer remembers your name. When I moved in, I thought I was just changing my address. I didn't realize I was also leaving behind my why. Back home, I had reasons to get up. I watered my plants, I made my coffee just right, I kept my space tidy. I listened to jazz on Sunday mornings while writing letters I never sent. These rituals, small as they were, gave my life structure, meaning, purpose. But inside the home, all of that disappeared. Meals were prepared by others. My laundry was done for me. The plants in the lobby weren't mine to water. At first, it felt like a luxury. No more chores, no more obligations, just rest. But slowly that rest became emptiness. Days stretched out like quiet hallways. Long, still, repetitive. I wasn't alone in feeling it. There was a man named George 84, a carpenter his entire life. At home he always had a project. A birdhouse, a bench, a shelf. He lived with wood shavings on his floor and pride in his hands. But here, no tools, no projects, no purpose. One day I found him sitting alone, staring at his hands. "I feel useless," he whispered. And I knew exactly what he meant. When there's nothing left to take care of, when there's no goal, no effort, no small task that belongs to you, the mind begins to slow, the body follows, and eventually you stop feeling like a person. You start feeling like a patient, a number, a name on a clipboard. So before you make this choice, ask yourself, what gives your life purpose right now, and are you willing to let that go? In the last section, I talked about how losing my sense of purpose was one of the most painful shifts I experienced. But there's something else that surprised me, something that crept in slowly, quietly, and with far more impact than I expected: the sudden, steady decline of my physical health. Before I moved into the nursing home, I was doing fairly well for my age. I wasn't running marathons or climbing mountains, but I was independent. I could cook my own meals, do my own laundry, take leisurely walks around the block. I had my little routines: grocery shopping on Tuesdays, stretching exercises in the morning, sweeping the porch in the evenings. These simple habits kept me moving, kept my muscles awake, and gave me a rhythm. But once I moved in, everything changed. At first, it felt like a break, like I was finally allowed to take it easy. Meals were delivered to my table. If I needed anything, I could press a button and someone would come. I didn't have to worry about cooking, cleaning, or even walking to get the mail. On paper, it sounded perfect. But the truth, the less I did for myself, the less I could do. It started slowly. I stopped walking as much. I sat for longer periods. The stairs I once used with ease were now off limits, and little by little I felt myself becoming weaker. My legs grew stiffer. My back ached more. Getting out of bed in the morning felt like lifting weights. I no longer had to move, so I stopped moving. And when you stop using your body, you start losing it. What shocked me even more was that I wasn't the only one. I watched it happen all around me. Residents who had walked in on their own 2 feet, smiling and steady, were soon using walkers, then wheelchairs. Men and women who had once prided themselves on being active were now struggling just to rise from a chair. There's a woman named Alice who moved in around the same time I did. She was 81 and full of spirit. She used to say I might be old, but I'm not slowing down. She would walk laps around the facility every morning, waving to staff, humming old jazz tunes. But months passed. Her walks got shorter. Then came the walker, then the wheelchair. One day she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I've aged 10 years in the last few months." And I knew exactly what she meant. What no one tells you is that when everything is designed to make your life easier, you slowly stop challenging yourself. You let go of effort, and without effort, the body forgets how to fight. If I could go back, I would have pushed myself harder. I would have walked more even when it was easier to sit. I would have stretched every morning even when I didn't feel like it. I would have asked for physical therapy or insisted on doing chores for myself. Anything to stay active, anything to stay strong. So ask yourself, if you move into a place where comfort is the priority, will you still have the drive to challenge your body? Will you still have the discipline to stay active when no one expects you to? Because once your strength fades, getting it back is much harder than you think. There's something deeply personal about being able to close a door behind you, knowing it's your space, your rules, your time. Before I moved in, I never gave that much thought. But in the nursing home, privacy becomes a luxury, and often it disappears altogether. From the moment I arrived, I felt exposed. Staff came in and out at all hours. Sometimes they knocked. Sometimes they didn't wait for a reply. There were routine checks, scheduled wake-ups, and very little opportunity to be alone. Even the things that once felt private, like getting dressed, bathing, or using the bathroom, now required assistance. I know the staff are doing their jobs. I'm grateful for their care, but that doesn't make it easier. Because asking for help with something you've done on your own for decades, it chips away at you. Not physically, but emotionally. I remember the first time I had to wait for someone to help me shower. The embarrassment, the vulnerability. Standing there, waiting, not knowing how long it would take. Not knowing if I'd be cold by the time someone arrived. Not knowing if I'd feel humiliated again. Even meal choices, something so basic, were limited. If you didn't like what was on the tray that day, tough luck. There were no substitutions, no special requests. Just eat what's served, or don't eat at all. And then there are the roommates. Not everyone gets a private room. I was fortunate I had a kind and quiet roommate, but others weren't so lucky. I heard stories. Roommates who shouted at night, who never cleaned up after themselves, who suffered from cognitive decline and screamed through the early hours of the morning. It's hard to feel at peace when you can't even control who shares your space. When you lose privacy, you start to lose a piece of yourself. You start to feel less like a person and more like a patient, like someone who is being managed instead of someone who is being seen. So before you choose a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the little freedoms that define your dignity? Are you willing to live on someone else's schedule, in someone else's idea of comfort? Because once that privacy is gone, it's not easy to reclaim. When I first moved in, I told myself, this is just for now. I believed I could try it out, that if I didn't like it, I could always go home. I held on to that thought like a safety net. But reality has a way of closing doors faster than you expect. You see, once you move in, things change on the outside and the inside. My house, which had always been my safe haven, sat empty. Maintenance fell behind. My kids began sorting through things, assuming I wouldn't be back. They started talking about selling it, renting it. You won't need this stuff anymore, they said. When I finally told them I wanted to go home, they hesitated. Are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer here? We just want what's best for you. I understood their concern, but their hesitation stung. It made me question myself. And then there was the other truth. I wasn't as strong anymore. Months of being catered to, of not walking far, not cooking, not lifting, not bending, had taken a toll. I wasn't sure I could live alone again. The independence I had taken for granted had faded. And that's how it happens. That's how you get stuck. Not because anyone forces you to stay, but because leaving feels impossible. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to remember what life was like before. I met others in the same boat. They had come thinking it was temporary, but their homes were sold. Their health declined. Their confidence disappeared. The decision they thought was reversible turned into a permanent chapter they never intended to write. So if you're thinking about moving into a nursing home just for a little while, be honest with yourself. What will happen to your home, your routines, your strength, your will. Because leaving isn't always as easy as walking back out of the front door. As we've seen, the hardest part isn't just what you lose inside a nursing home, it's how slowly, quietly it becomes your entire world. And by the time you realize what's happened, getting back to your old life might no longer be within reach. There's something nobody tells you about nursing homes, how final the move can feel, even when it's supposed to be temporary. When I first arrived, I believed I had options. I thought I was trying it out, testing the waters. If I don't like it, I told myself I can always go home. It gave me comfort to think I still had control over my future. But here's the truth. Once you move in, everything begins to shift. Time passes, routines change, and the longer you stay, the more permanent it all becomes. The nursing home doesn't feel like a stop along the way. It starts to feel like the end of the road. And the life you once lived, the world you came from, starts to fade into the background like an old photograph. Your home, if it still exists, isn't the same. Maybe it's sitting empty. Maybe it's already been sold. Maybe your family has moved things around, removed your furniture, donated your clothes. Maybe they've even started renting the place out, assuming you won't be coming back. And even if your home is still there, you've changed. Your strength isn't what it was. Your confidence might have faded. After months or even years of living in a place where others cook, clean, and decide your schedule. It's hard to imagine going back to managing everything on your own. The barriers to leaving aren't just physical. They're emotional. They're financial. They're deeply personal. You start asking yourself, can I really do this? Can I live alone again? Will my body handle it? What if I fall? What if I fail? And those questions, they don't just stop you. They keep you. I've known many residents who said the same thing I did when they first arrived. This is just temporary. But months turned to years. Their homes were gone. Their savings were stretched thin. Their bodies no longer strong enough to live independently. Some of them tried to leave. Others gave up before trying. But the outcome was always the same. Leaving wasn't as simple as they'd once believed. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, I ask you sincerely, are you prepared for the possibility that leaving might not be an option later? Because once you settle in, once you adapt to the system, the schedule, the simplicity, it's no longer just a place you live. It becomes your reality. And the life you left behind starts to feel like a dream you're slowly forgetting. If you're still here listening, reflecting, and finding value in these truths, please comment number 6 below. Your presence means a lot. And if you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss future videos that aim to inform, inspire, and bring awareness to life's most important decisions. Now let's take a step back. Let me share my final thoughts, not as a warning, but as a reflection. I hope might help you make the best decision for yourself or someone you love. Looking back, I don't regret growing older. Aging, after all, is a privilege not everyone gets. Each wrinkle on my face is a story, each grey hair a memory. Time has given me much. But what I do regret is believing that a nursing home was my only option. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, a better quality of life. But what I found instead was a slow unraveling of the things that made life mine. My independence, my privacy, my routines, my sense of purpose, my identity. Each of these faded not all at once, but bit by bit, until one day I realized how much I had surrendered. Does that mean nursing homes are inherently bad? No, not at all. For some people, they provide the exact level of care needed. There are residents here who truly benefit from the structure, the medical attention, the support. And for many families, it's the only realistic choice. But before you make that decision for yourself or someone you care about, please think carefully. Because this choice isn't just about safety or convenience. It's about your life, your freedom, your sense of self. If I could do it all over again, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. I would have explored every possible support system: home aides, part-time, nurses, family, rotation, community programs. I would have asked for help, not because I was weak, but because I still valued my independence. Most importantly, I would have asked myself not, is this easier, but is this right for me? Because what seems easiest in the moment isn't always what's best in the long run. So if you're facing this decision, I urge you, take your time, ask hard questions, plan carefully, and most of all, don't give up your independence unless you truly have to. The life you're living now, your space, your habits, your freedom, it's precious. It's worth protecting. It's worth preserving. And once it's gone, you may find yourself missing even the smallest things, like choosing when to drink your coffee or waking up in a room that still smells like you. Thank you for joining me on this deeply personal journey. If something in this video spoke to you, I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you've taken from this message and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts, your stories, your reflections, they matter. Reading your comments gives our team encouragement and helps us continue creating honest, human-centered content that connects with real lives and real decisions. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might be facing the same decision. You never know, your share could help someone make the most important choice of their life. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay strong, stay thoughtful, and above all, stay you.